All right, so this is in regards to the West. So I'm gonna use the South Dakota internet song because it's very cowboyish. All right. And no, the women don't look like that. That's only in the movies. And well, obviously AI. So yeah, he says, "Oh, hi, I like cowgirls." Like, yay! You probably saw an old movie. You haven't been to the West in recent times in these here parts. Yeehaw! We don't need horses or cow. We got our women. That's all right. We just ride them into town. All right, let's get serious. Let me close out this. So, shit, I closed out the wrong one. Hang on. Bitterroot. Ranch. Round up. All cattle drives. There we go. Okay. Hi, Aaron. My friend and I always like the Western cowboy country culture as portrayed in the movies, including the cowgirls. Well, good, because that's where those girls are in the movies. My understanding is that the cowboy culture in the United States is most vibrant and authentic in Western states, with Texas, Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, and Oklahoma consistently highlighted as the epicenters of this heritage. Since you seem to know that area, my question is twofold. Can you share your experience, knowledge about this culture in general based on your experience? Two, suppose my friend and I were planning a trip to absorb as much of this as possible, then what should we consider doing? Name a price or video response. All right, so let me keep your things up. So here's the problem. There's the historical cowboys in the West that actually was, and then there's the movies and the legends that were made after it. And then there's the fat Walmart pig shop and slop we got now who live in Western states. There is actual cowboy culture still remaining, but nowhere in the capacity or in the old technologies that it used to exist that you see in the movies. I mean, we have ranches, we got cows, but it ain't, you're not driving them to Belfouche or Abilene to go get them to market. And then Western cowboy culture, let's call it Western culture, that has migrated due to the changing economy after the Civil War. And yes, I had to look some of these things up, but it was more interesting than I thought. So let us talk about cowboy Western culture and how it risen, that came up in the past. There was the Civil War where the Republicans freed the slaves by fighting and killing a lot of Democrats. Maybe we should do that again. I'm just in Minecraft. And so the North was wealthy, it was always industrialized. The South got obliterated, and Texas was part of South, but it wasn't as obliterated as the rest of the way. But they said, hey, my God, there's cows down here, longhorn cattle, cows, steers, bulls, whatever, beef. And the Northerners wanted beef. And they found what they could do is they could, raise these longhorn cattle, steers on Texas land. And you got to understand, 1866 and later, there wasn't refrigeration. But the trains were starting to make their way out west. And what they would do is they'd have cattle drives. They'd be driven and herded by cowboys who would herd the cows into different points. Now, my limited knowledge was always they drove them in from the West because it was the West. You got to understand when they talk about the West in the 1865, after the Republicans defeated the Democrats, freeing all the slaves, after we killed a bunch of Democrats, right, in the 1860s. Abraham Lincoln, Republican, remember that. The West meant on the other side of the Mississippi. It didn't mean Montana, California, and heck, half those things weren't even states by that time. What it meant was driving them north because Texas was down in the south. That's where all the cattle was. And then the trains were making their way straight laterally across, what would be the Midwest then, like Indianapolis, St. Louis, Chicago. They're shooting straight west. So what the cattle drivers did, and there were different trails. Some trails went up to Indianapolis, some went up to St. Louis, some went all the way to Chicago. But the main one, I believe, the Chisholm Trail, went straight up across the Plain States, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and you'd hook up Abilene. I think Kansas was the biggest cow town. That's where the train was, and then they'd haul them back to different city centers where they get butchered. The reason they did the cattle drive, though, and what killed the cattle drives inevitably is refrigeration. Because then you could just butcher the cows locally, turn it into steaks, and then you put it at your grocery store or ship it to the assholes in New York, whatever, however the cattle. But that was why they drove the cattle up, because you couldn't butcher them there. The meat would spoil. So you push them north. Now, as time went on, they found out that there were other lands that did well with cattle ranching, and that was generally out west. So parts of Wyoming, South Dakota is split right in half. If you're on the east side of the Missouri River, there's enough water you can farm. If you're on the west side of the river, you ranch because cows don't need as much water. And so there are places, and you could see them. They're in Wyoming, they're in South Dakota, they're in North Dakota, Montana. A little further north, you got not so much. If you're in Canada, maybe not so much. Wyoming, what else? Colorado, western Nebraska. Cattle, all, and then you just ship them a lot closer. You didn't have to drive them north, you just drove them across. And so that was, I don't know when the last cattle drive was, when it became economically efficient to stop the cattle drives and maybe the population was big enough. I have no idea. But that's cowboys. The Wild West that you see on the TV, that's mining. That's gold rushes. That's the 1849 gold rush of California, where the famous gold rush bandit, Yosemite Sam, if you look him up, he's a famous historical American. But Deadwood, the TV show, that I was just there today, that's in South Dakota. Where the gambling, Tombstone, they're down there looking for gold. That's all the way down in Arizona, southern Arizona. I don't think there's any cattle down there. And then after that, and then Texas got oil, which isn't exactly related to the six-gun shooting gambler, Tombstone. We're going after the gold and the silver type, bad Bart type of stuff. But oil does become kind of a Texas Western culture thing. So that's what drove all the people out. So after the Civil War, you got cattle, you got mining, specifically gold and silver, oil in Texas a little bit later, 1910s, I recall. All of which creates the West and loops in all the real West and not California, because fuck California. California is not part of the United States, even though it is West and there was a gold rush there. So if you want a cowboy Western experience, well, do you want the cowboy experience? Do you want the mining, rootin', tootin', shooting, six-gun shooting, aces and eights, dead man's hand gambling poker experience? Do you want Texas yeehaw experience? What kind of experience do you want? Do you want historical experience? You want to go to Abilene, Kansas? I guarantee you it's a really fucking boring town now. I remember driving through Dodge. There's a thing, get out of Dodge, because, a lot of shooting in Dodge, Kansas, I guess, back in those days. I remember going through Dodge, Kansas. It's like 3 a.m. I took a picture of it in the back because it was night. And you just see it. I said, I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. And there's nothing happening in Dodge City now. So if I read your email here correctly, let's do one. Can you share your experience, knowledge of this culture in general based on your experience? My experience is that culture was only in the movies. I do know and have run into a handful of legit cowboys and ranchers, but it's different economics. You raise them on the ranch. Sometimes you got to move them. We're going to talk about that. But you ship them out, I think, in trucks now, or maybe you butcher them locally, but you don't have cattle drives. In some ways you do, but Generally, no. Um, is there mining? Sure, but it's all automated with heavy machinery. Go look at the town Miami, Arizona. Used to employ a lot of people. Now it's down to about a third of its population because the machines have replaced the people. And you don't have six-gun shooting cowboy shit. The places that happen and have the historical remnants thereof, like Deadwood, the town, or oh, what's some famous? I'm just trying to think. Dodge City. That has most living out west. A lot of that's been replaced by meth heads, alcoholics, trailer parks, and shitbirds, especially Wyoming. Um, I think Vegas is like extreme west, still some remnants of it. There's some real cowboy western stuff there. But then you go further in, you're in the desert already in Vegas. But then you go into California, that's not really the west. There's nothing remaining of that culture except for the buildings, historical monuments, reenactments, like they do the reenactment of the Wild Bill shootout in Deadwood all the time. I'm sure they do it in other towns. They do it in Deadwood. I'm sorry, Tombstone, but you're gonna be way the hell out of that. And the only other way that culture still remains is in country music and country life type of style, where instead of riding horses, they ride trucks. And yeah, they bale hay and there's ranchers and there's farmers and they're still drinking whiskey. Uh the Texans do carry guns because that's real America, not the lame ass pansy America that California wants to be. And then in the towns, there's country dancing and there's the music. Modern country should join California and just drown in the fucking Pacific. But there's old country still played that's good music. And then there's national parks. So you're not really gonna get the shucks howdy buckaroo treatment unless you go to a performance or you're actually in kind of almost a touristy town. If I come to the United States, if you come to South Dakota and you go to the town outside of Mount Rushmore, it's called Keystone. And everyone, oh my God, look, a real Western town. I'm like, this is not a real Western town. This was built this way in the 70s. It's all trinket shops and bauble shops. It's a tourist trap. The real Keystone town is downstream a bit where they actually did have a mining operation and small little houses and all that. And it don't look all that Western. So if you want to experience Western culture, there's not a lot of ways to do it except to see where the Western shit happened, right? If you watch I could tell you something. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. If you guys, I'll tell you this: if you haven't seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, you should go see that. You and your European buddies, you haven't seen it. It's one of the best American westerns made. And in it, they always retreat to the hole in the wall, which was their hideout in Wyoming. Now, this is all a true story. Of course, they took some liberties with it, with the Paul Newman and who's that actor who was almost as handsome as me when I was his age when he was young? Paul Newman. Why can't I think of the other guy? He's incredibly famous and almost as handsome as me. Robert Redford. Great movie. My buddy Dirty Harriet took me to the hole in the wall. Well, guess what? You get to drive 3 fucking hours from a sizable town in Wyoming into the middle of fucking nowhere on dirt roads. And it's just another cliff, right? So I think what you want is you want to experience the West. You know you can't get it back. Maybe you'd like to visit some historical places and maybe if it's possible to experience some real cowboy culture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a general itinerary, kind of a map to follow, and some things for you to further research and select what you'd like. And I think with you and because I don't want you coming here and doing a purely museum level, this is where Cowboy Slim picked his nose and ran off the Indians. I want you to, like, while you're here, I want you to actually experience the rest of the United States, particularly the West and its national parks. Some things that are more Western than others. And then I got some things that'll scratch a real cow. You can play a real cowboy and you're going to pay the price. So let's do this. Let me get my notes. Okay. If you want Western culture, cowboy culture, the best place to find it is going to be in Dallas, Texas. And I would go, I can have Chad tell me where the country dancing is. I mean, there's several places, but they found a place that there's country dancing. Nuclear Caudillo knows where there's Latin dancing, but there's still people dressed up in cowboy hats and all that. It's your choice whether you want fat white chicks or fat Latin chicks. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Dallas actually has some pretty attractive women. However, that's where the culture is. You're going to have cowboys and belt buckles and country dancing, and you can go to a gun show, and there's going to be barbecue. You need to go to the barbecue. There's smoking cigars. You can go shoot guns if you want. I'm sure you could ride a horse. Okay. But I would say that's where the culture remains, and not a single fucking one of them is a cowboy. Not one of them. On their LinkedIn profile, it says cowboy. It's the culture that's there in a modern day city. And Dallas, I think, is probably, in my opinion, one of the nicest, coolest major metros out there. I was not impressed with Houston. There's nothing wrong with San Antonio. You're going to want to fly into Dallas. Okay. Then this is up to you. Spend 2-3 days in Dallas. Go have an itinerary, get some country dancing in, get in a bar fight, eat some peanuts, throw the shells on the ground. There, you're official cowboy now. The problem is all the Western shit that's really cool. I mean, there's the Alamo, okay, if you want to visit, but that's down in San Antonio. Skip that for now. I'm going to send you north. And what I'm going to recommend you do, if you want the real experience, I want you to drive. You get a rental car for this entire trip out of Dallas. And then you drive up to Abilene, Kansas. Let me see. Let me make sure I got it right. Abilene, Kansas. Because that's the one that kept on coming up like, this is where all the cattle were. All right. Let me see how far away that is from Dallas. Yep. Straight shot north. Straight shot north. And then look at that. Boom. You're off to Denver, which is the next place I wanted you to go. You go north. You hang right, did a little bit of Abilene, and then you head back, and then you go all the way to Denver. You're set. You're golden. Okay. So now, if you go to Abilene, you're going to be introduced to the American Central Plains. You're going to go right. Probably that highway probably does follow the old cattle trail. You could look up the Chisholm Cattle Trail. I mean, there's going to be cattle trails. This is the historical trail. You go to Abilene, and then the main reason I'm having you to do that is you go north and you're going to go through Oklahoma, and you get to see what the Western cowboys drove the cattle through. There's the routes. There it is. And if you're lucky and you time it right, although I'm going to recommend you try something, I'm going to have you time your visit with a rodeo and a roundup. If you're here anytime spring or later, your best chances of seeing a tornado are going to be on that drive. That'll be tornado season. It's mid-spring is the ideal, like May is the ideal time to see tornadoes. You'll be dead fucking center of Tornado Alley. And there's a chance you'll see one. I almost guarantee you'll see some dust devils, but those aren't tornadoes. They're not going to hurt you. But I mean, and if there's any weather, you're going to see some beautiful thunderstorms at minimum. But that is a bonus. It really doesn't have much to do with the West, but you're there. It's like going to Paris and not seeing the Eiffel Tower, right? You're like, what do you do in Oklahoma? You look for tornadoes and get pregnant and live in a trailer. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm a real Oklahoma. I'm kidding. I've just driven through Oklahoma once. Go to Abilene, Kansas. There it is. Probably the epicenter at one time. You could see the old buildings and the architecture. You hang a left, you go west on, that's got to be Interstate 80, I believe. I've probably been through. Yeah, I guess I have been through it. And you get yourself to Denver. All right. Is there anything to do in Denver? Yeah, avoid it. All right. And I shouldn't really say you want to get to Denver. What you want to do is you want to get to Cheyenne. I'm going to hate saying this. But the best place for you to experience Western culture, especially the cowboy Western culture, is going to be Wyoming. Here are my reasons. Okay. Though it is the pig fucking estate in the entire United States. If you like cattle fucking and pig fucking, I don't recommend you do it, but you're going to be going to Wyoming, get your kicks. There are a handful of things that tourists from Europe, if you want to see the West, Wyoming probably has it, especially if you want to do cowboy shit. So the Cheyenne Rodeo, which is one of the nationals, are in Vegas. They have this thing called Frontier Days. Now it's a big old cowboy Western frontier days. And yeah, it's modern day people living in Cheyenne. In Cheyenne, they got all their teeth because that's the state capital. That's where the women who aren't terribly obese live. Mhm. So you're going to go there for Frontier Days, but I would time it with the rodeo. All right. I can't think of anything that is more legitimate and more authentic and real cowboy shit than the rodeo. Go see the rodeo. There's other stuff going on, get a cowboy hat, whatever. But oh, before I forget, you need to get barbecue in Dallas, Texas. You also need to get barbecue in Kansas. I have spoken right there. We've done that. Oh, and if you see a Buc-ee's, you have to stop. Not all of them. You must stop at least one Buc-ee's. All right, so now back up to Cheyenne. You don't even have to go through Denver if you don't want to. I would recommend bypassing it or going through the exciting state of Nebraska. Yeah. You get to Cheyenne. Cheyenne's not that big a town. You're probably, if you want to go to rodeo days, get your hotel in advance because it's big. Like, I'm not kidding. The population of Wyoming probably goes up a full 20% for people that attend that thing. So go to Frontier Days. Now, once you're in Wyoming, Cheyenne, Wyoming, you're in the bottom right, the southeast part of Wyoming. This gives you a couple options and shots to continue your Western adventure. What I'm going to recommend you do while you're in Cheyenne, Wyoming, you're going to shoot mostly north and a little east, and you're going to come to my neck of the woods. You're going to go into the Black Hills. You're going to see Mount Rushmore, and you could probably do this all in one day. You leave Cheyenne in the morning. You go up through Lusk. You come up through Custer, South Dakota, and you see Mount Rushmore. There it is. Land that I love. All right. And then you're going to continue on to a town called Deadwood, South Dakota, which is where Wild Bill Hickok, Calamity Jane, and a bunch of shootouts happen. Real Western town. They've maintained it. The problem is, I mean, you could go to the gravesite of Calamity Jane and Wild Bill Hickok. There's a lot of history there. The paradox or the irony is just the towns there. And yeah, they got shootouts. And they have all these like plaques that this is where Wild Bill got shot. This is where Will's assailant got arrested. This is where Calamity Jane took a piss. I mean, they get a little bit lamer when you get further away from the shooting of Wild Bill Hickok. And you walk down one side, you walk up the other, maybe you do a little bit of gambling. You get the hell out of you do Spearfish Canyon. Now you're in Spearfish, South Dakota. You got to do Spearfish Canyon. But you've been to Deadwood. If you wanted to, there's an outfit in Spearfish, South Dakota where you can pan for gold and you're going to find some. You're going to find that much, but there's a place. That's how they make their money is they do have gold, trace elements of gold, and you can pan for gold in Spearfish, South Dakota. Look it up if you want it, it's Western. You get the pan for gold. I think you pay 35 or 50 bucks and they give you a pan and you get your little vial of gold. You can say you pan for gold. So that's something you can do up there too. Very Western. Spearfish, great food. Gas. Now you're going to go to a town called Buffalo, Wyoming. Land that I love. And here's where you get to make a choice. Oh, by the way, stop and visit Devil's Tower on the way out to Buffalo, Wyoming. Buffalo, Wyoming, another town called Sheridan, Wyoming. They are on the foothills east side of the Bighorn Mountains. Outside Buffalo, Wyoming, it should still be in operation. Double check. There's what's called a dude ranch or a horse ranch. It's up in the mountains. You could go up there and have a cowboy experience. I'm not too familiar with the activities they got. I do know that you go horseback riding and they take you up to Lake Abilene and Seven Brothers lakes. Those are on they're glacial lakes. You're high up. You're 11, 12,000 feet up. If you want, look up Lake, I think it's Lake Abilene. It's the Wyoming way. Lake Abilene. Well, what the hell? Lake Angela? This is Lake Angeline right here. That's the one I hiked. Lake Angeline, 12.6 miles out and back. That's the one I did. Well, anyway, the whole point is I did that on foot and it had snowed. The snow hadn't fully melted by that time in summer. And the only way I made my way out was following horse prints and horse shit on the way back. So there's a ranch that will take you up into the Wyoming mountains where there's snow in June. And there's cowboy supper and you sit in log cabins. It's up in the mountains. Buffalo, the town for tourists anyway, is all right. I recommend you go to the what's the bar? It's the Old Main Bar down there. The building is original. And then you can get in fights and bring a gun and shoot drunk hicks when they threaten you. It's a good old who dang diggly, do dang diggly pig fucker time. But the area is beautiful. I recommend then from now, that's option one. And maybe you got time for all these options. I don't know. That's going to be pretty cowboyish. You're not hustling cattle, but you're up in the fucking mountains on a horse, on a real horse ranch. And then you go into town, into Buffalo, where they got cocktails and drinks and all that other shit. From there, I'm going to recommend if you got a car, you're going to go drive over Highway 16 to Ten Sleep. There's a town called Ten Sleep. You can go through Ten Sleep Canyon. You are now on the other side, the western side of the Bighorn Mountains. You know the next mountain range over? It's Yellowstone National Park, right? So in this cowboy excursion, you see Mount Rushmore, you got Yellowstone National Park, two of the main ones. Grand Canyon's too fucking far away. That's the only other major one. But now you got Yellowstone. And when I say Yellowstone, I also mean you're going to drive Beartooth Pass, which is nearby and adjacent, right? So you're in that area of Wyoming now. Now you can do Yellowstone National Park. Now, if you look at a map of Wyoming, which is a square, legitimately just a fucking square, south of Yellowstone National Park is a town called Lander. And I remember they would shut down the road. Why were they shutting down the road? They were moving the cattle. Some ranchers still move the cattle. And then I looked up and said, well, do they have like cattle days and all that? Are you ready? Are you ready for this, boys? Are you ready for this? The Bitterroot Ranch Roundup. Summer cattle drive. They got a winter cattle drive vacations at the Bitterroot Ranch. There was an article about it. Yeah, the Bitterroot Ranch in Wyoming offers a week-long cattle roundup to gather their herd for summer pasture or visit during a time in summer. So you are going to work like a real cowboy. You want the real cowboy experience? Well, here you go, sir. You're not watching a rodeo and watching some other guy get balked off a bronco. You're not having a horse drag your ass up 2,300 feet to an icy cold lake. You get to do the work. I am going to imagine you're going to want to email them and find out how far in advance, because there's some weirdos out there that think that's going to be a fun time. So if you really wanted that experience, they got it. Now, I failed to mention, while you're in South Dakota, you can go and see what's called the Buffalo Roundup. That's something you just witness. It's not cattle, it's buffalo. It's cowboy-ish. what's pretty fucking cowboy, but it's Buffalo. They didn't do that back in the day. Yeah, and that's about as wet. You're in the mountains where the water flows into the Green River, makes the Grand Canyon all the way down to Hoover Dam. That's where that water starts, is in Lander. You're up in the mountains. You're either bringing the cattle up or down, depending on the time of season. They're going to make you work. They'll feed you, get your bunk houses, email them, find out what the deal is, research it on the internet. There was some article. And then that way, I'm thinking 2-3 days in Dallas, a day driving up to Cheyenne. You do frontier days for a day or two. Couple days in South Dakota, probably 2. I mean, you just need to see you just need to see Mount Rushmore, Deadwood, Spearfish Canyon. That kind of is on your way back out to the Interstate 90, to make your way over to Buffalo. Then your apex of this journey will be Wyoming, or your apogee. You got Yosemite National Park. You get to see that. You get to go through Ten Sleep Canyon. Most people don't know about it. It's not a national park, but it's beautiful nonetheless. You get to go to Lander, be a real cowboy. You guys get to live it. And then after that, Lander, do you want to go into Utah? I mean, how much time you got? I could keep you occupied for months out there. But you're probably going to be tired by that time, and then maybe I just hoof it back to either Casper. Yeah, you're probably going to go through Casper if you're going through. Yeah, you're going to go through Jeffrey City. Get to go through Rollins, maybe. Oh, boy, Rollins. And there's a restaurant named Cappy's in Rollins, Wyoming, and you're probably going to get shot. I'd say bring a gun, but you're Europeans, and that's bad. That will be enough Western adventure for you guys, especially if you do that ranch thing. But if you don't want to do the ranch thing over at Bitterroot Ranch, I think that's going to give you a very thorough cowboy experience. You get the actual culture down in Texas. You get to eat barbecue on the way up. You get to drive what was likely one of the old cow trails up to Abilene. You might see a tornado, which would be fucking awesome. You cut over into Wyoming and South Dakota. You see 2 of our greatest national parks. You get to go to an old Western town that's famous, Deadwood, South Dakota. It still looks relatively the same after the fire anyway. Then you get to work on a dude ranch, or you get to have horses take you up into the mountains. You see Yellowstone National Park. That's pretty Western. Oh, by the way, you can play poker in Deadwood. Maybe you play a game of, I recommend Saloon 10. If not, go to the Silverado, play a couple hands of it. You can play some poker in Deadwood, right? That's about as American as it gets. Poker, whiskey, barbecue, two-stepping cowboy dancing, horse rides up into the mountains, wrangling the roundup and getting stray cattle in the mountains of, what is it? That's the Wind River Range. Yeah, I'd say you'd have the American experience by then. And then, yeah, I'm sure you get an official cowboy hat. And you probably, if you learn how to ride a horse and you round it up, you worked on the ranch. Yeah, I think you earned yourself the right to wear a cowboy hat. So that's how I'd recommend finding real Western cowboy culture in the United States. All right, let's go to the super chats. Alex Patino, truck driver Latino, agent in the field, 10 generous dollars. Here are some fun facts. The original American cowboys were Scott. Yes, they were. Thank you, Alex. Weren't they called whippers or crackers? Because they cracked the whips? Yes, there are still some cattle down in Florida. That's the original cowboys. They were down in Florida. Yep. Scottish immigrants in Florida, and the ones in Texas were Spanish vaqueros. And the original recipe for chili was suet with beans. See, look at this guy. Look at this guy over here. Known his American lore. Captain Bob, $2. Still can't believe this romanticized. Wow. Yeah, see, now Captain Bob actually works on a farm and a ranch, so he knows. Well, Bob, they made movies out of it. Come on, John, all the movies John Wayne did, they made it, McClintock. Oh, it looks all fun and everything. It's just, I guarantee you 1 week on that ranch, rustling cattle, he's gonna be done with it. Oh, I hope they help him, make him dig fence posts. Every cattle. I had to repair fencing for a buddy of mine who had a couple head of cow. What a pain in the ass. Like, you fucking tweezing your gloves and fucking stepping in cow shit. Nonstop Dre, $2 is Brokeback Mountain part of cowboy culture. I don't know. Is it Dre? You tell me. That's Dre, $2. I've never seen a Western what? Wait a minute. Wait, hold it. Dre, are you just fucking with me because you haven't seen Die Hard and you know this is gonna agitate me? You trying to push my buttons? What do you mean you've never seen how have you not seen a Western movie? There's so many. And the spaghetti westerns alone? Dre, if you're serious and you haven't seen a Western movie, like get on this shit now. Okay, wherever you're stationed, wherever you are over in Asia, there must be a way for you to get them on Netflix or something on the internet. I'll give you the Westerns. You got Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid right off the bat. Once Upon a Time in the West, Duck You Sucker, which also goes by A Fistful of Dynamite. The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, Few Dollars More. Those are all the Clint Eastwood ones. My Name is Trinity. Trinity is Still My Name. Those are funny. A lot of people like High Plains Drifter, Clint Eastwood's non-spaghetti Western ones. I was never that big of a fan. 1992, Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman, The Unforgiven. That's pretty good. Open Range is a good one. That's a good one. Open Range. McClintock. You got to see McClintock. I'm not a big John Wayne fan. Some people really swear by The Searchers. I'm like, eh. Rio Bravo. It's fun to watch a fake drunk Dean Martin. Oh, what's the other good? I know I got some. I know I'm missing some. I'm sure people have it in the comments. But yeah, Dre, if you haven't seen some Westerns, you gotta see those. You gotta, just for the music alone with those spaghetti Westerns. Oh, Lee Van Cleef. There's hundreds of these spaghetti westerns. What was The Death Rides a Horse? Django Unchained? Oh, some good stuff. Yeah, Dre, if you haven't seen it, dude, I wish I was in your situation because I'd have all this stuff, new experiences for the first time. You got days of fucking movies to watch, and they're gonna be good. Dre, $2. I played Red Dead Redemption. Great. Oh, dude, if you like Red Dead Redemption, you're gonna love them. Oh, so little bit of trivia fact. Red Dead Redemption is number 2 in the series. Red Dead Redemption 2 is the 3rd in the series. This is just called Red Dead Revolver is the first one. And the opening theme to that is called His Name Was King, Lo Chiamavo. And that song is in a spaghetti Western that starred this crazy German guy who would star in the spaghetti Westerns, and his name escapes me now, but it's just got this great bass line, guitar bass. And I'm like, why does that, like, that's a really good song for a video game. And because it didn't start with the video game, it was a spaghetti Western song. But yeah, if you like Red Dead Redemption, you will love these movies, man. Nonstop Dre, $2. I've serious never seen Western movies, but what are you calling me a boomer for? You're the one like what do you did you leave school? Did you have you had a drink of alcohol? Yeah, you're almost 30 years old. This is not my problem. You haven't seen Westerns. What if you got hit by a train? And Dre never saw the spaghetti Westerns. Sup and Zippy, $2. Unforgiven, Outlaw, Josie Wales were good too. I Outlaw Josie Wales was good. Yeah, Outlaw Josie Wales was good. No, get. So, Dances with Wolves was filmed here a lot in South Dakota, and everyone, oh my God, did you know Dances with Wolves was filmed here? I'm like, yes, I fucking know. And I got a buddy who's an Indian long ago. He actually has a bit part in the movie, and it was by complete accident because his old man ranched horses, and they couldn't get the horses to obey. I don't want to mention his name because, keep him private. But he was there helping with the horses, and he was a young, strapping, good-looking Indian dude. And the guy says he could ride the horse. And the director, whoever it was, says, "You can ride the horse?" Because they couldn't get this one horse. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're Indian. You want to be in the movie? Because this horse ain't obeying this guy over here." So the funny thing is, my buddy, he's full-blooded Indian, right? Tan. He doesn't get any more authentic. He wasn't dark enough for filming, so I had to lather him up with oil. And so he's just got this little bit because he could ride the horse. He was handling the horses. Um, so that's why I like it, because my buddy was in it. But dude, that is such an overrated no, no, no. Dre, $2. I've seen Django with Jamie Foxx. No, that does not count. You got to get the original one. That's still fun. Jamie Foxx is fun, but you got to get the old one. Sup is Zippy, $2. I love how Dirty Harry won as a Western in 1970s San Francisco. Yeah, you're not wrong about that. You're not wrong. Dre, $2. I still never tried alcohol or smoking. I don't know if you have to. I don't know if you should. Given your background, it's hard enough. I wouldn't want you to go through what I had to go through with alcohol. If you've not needed it, I don't think you do. You do need to see Die Hard, you dumb son. Go see Die Hard. Sup is Zippy, $2. Mad Max 1 is a 4-wheel Western in the apocalypse. Yeah, you're not wrong. 7, it was a remake of the Seven Samurai. I guess you got to see that one. It's Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Robert Vaughn, Charles Bronson. Why can't I remember it? Seven something. Everyone's yelling in the comments section. That one I'd see too. It's a classic, so that's why you guys see it, but it ain't my favorite. If I had one of the ones that stands, yeah, Once Upon a Time in the West is beautiful. Especially the opening scene with Charles Bronson. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, probably a perfect movie. I still love Duck You Sucker. I still love it's Rob Steiner and James Coburn, just two skeezy down and out guys, and I like that one. That one kind of not a bank, not a bank, the bank. All right, there you go. I think I've answered that. Questions, answers, assholeconsulting.com. Link below is my book, Reconnaissance Man, if you want to figure out where to live in the United States, not necessarily get the Western experience. So for those of you who are graduating from college, like, gee, where should I live? Please don't go downtown where all the action is and all the Democrats shoot each other and shit on the streets. Why would you live there? Because my teacher said that's where all the action is and that's where I should go and the culture is there. Yes, there is fecal material culture. Yes, there is biological culture in Democrat poop on the streets of San Francisco. You are right. There is culture there. But if you'd like to, I don't know, enjoy life, get the book Reconnaissance Man and make sure you live in those areas. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.